All right, Jason and I were talking. I may put this in the group chat. I forget exactly how this conversation came up, but we were going to do this topic on Monday, didn't get time. That over All-Star Weekend, Adam Silver said he would at least consider getting rid of the NBA draft if that was the only way they can curb tanking. I personally like some of the ideas that have been floated out in terms of fixing tanking in the NBA, and I'm not totally against the idea of abolishing the draft, even though, Jason, you said that would be an absolute catastrophe.
It's a terrible idea, Mike. I don't know why you
did it. Jason, why do you think it would be a catastrophe if they went away from that?
Well, I don't think tanking is the biggest problem in the NBA.
No.
So I don't think it's as big of a deal as others tend to think it is. I think the gambling stuff is much bigger. And I think...
And tanking plays into that a little bit, can.
It can. It's two different, but they are interrelated. And the second one that I think you should be able to reward teams that build through the draft.
Right.
Like the Cavs did it the right way, and the rules make it so that they can't keep their team together. Like that's ridiculous.
Right.
Oklahoma City's done it the right way.
Yeah.
And they have so many picks that they'll be able to shuffle guys in and out. But
well, for example, Jason, when Evan Mobley wins Defensive Player of the Year,
right,
he gets a boost.
Right.
That boost should not count against the cap.
Yeah.
That's a total flaw in the system. You penalize the team for their player being good.
So I just, real quick, last night, this morning, I might wind up writing something on this. Do you think that the NFL has a tanking problem? The NFL, not the NBA. Do you think the NFL has a tanking problem?
No, I don't think
Have you ever heard the NFL has a tanking problem?
Never.
Would you believe that this year there were 7 teams in the NFL with winning percentages under 300? There are 5 in the NBA. The NFL has more bad teams than the NBA. And it's like that every year. I went back. This year, 25-26, NBA, 5 teams under 300, NFL, 7 teams. 24-25, NBA, 5 teams under. NFL, 10.
The NBA
10 teams.
But because the NFL teams, it doesn't feel like they're losing on purpose.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're losing on purpose or not. You're still losing. You're bad. You're
right,
a bad
but that's
team.
not tanking. Being bad is not tanking.
Yes, I understand. But my point is there are more bad teams, and it's because there's not as many games, so it doesn't feel as atrocious.
But the problem with tanking is what you had with the Utah Jazz.
They're not throwing games.
Well, but when you don't play players on purpose, that's bad for the sport. Is it that big a deal? No, but that's not in the spirit of sports to sit guys to not win a game. That's bad. But
you know why they do it? Because it works.
Yeah, that's
GMs
right.
believe that it works.
That's
why they do it.
The bad teams in the NBA seem like they're always in the lottery.
But there's Sacramento and Charlotte. They're bad organizations. The Browns, they're a bad organization. The Spurs tanked and got Tim Duncan and Victor Wembanyama. The Cavs tanked and got LeBron, and then they got Kyrie, and they won a championship, and they might win another one.
I hear you.
So tanking, there's a reason.
Tanking works.
There's a reason
Tanking
GMs
works.
do it. Because it works. And then you don't do it. Mm-hmm. And then the next cycle comes in. Right. And then there's the next couple of teams that have to do it for a year or two. And then if they do it right, they take off, and then the next cycle comes in.
If you're a fan,
I get why people...
When your best players are on the bench at the end of the game, it's a bad look. But
I agree
ultimately,
with that.
getting rid of the draft is a terrible idea. It would be a massive advantage for the big market teams because they have more money to spend in general.
Yeah, there's a long way before you could even figure that. I mean, there are so many... teams trade picks 5, 6, 7 years out.
Yeah, you have to do it a decade in advance.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not even realistic for at least probably 8 or 9 years. And I mean, what do we do? See, I think Adam Silver has done a lot of good things as a commissioner, and I think there's things that he's done that's just batshit crazy, and this is one of them.
Yeah,
like even discussing dismantling the draft in this way. And but like,
do you know who asked the question, by the way, Jason?
Do I know who asked the question? No.
Your boy.
Oh, Joe.
Joe.
Well, Joe wrote the story. And Joe has been on this, and there's some pretty smart people who advocate this. Like, I have a lot of respect for Tom Haberstroh. I think he's really good, and Tom's in favor of this. David Aldridge is like a king in terms of NBA media, and David's in favor of it. And I would love to sit down and have a conversation with them. Maybe there's something I'm missing. I think it's insane. If you want to fix
how is that good for fans?
Can I give you just the reason? And once again, it's not realistic. The NBA PA would never go for it. It will never happen. So
why would the PA not go for it? The guys would make more money.
Because it would essentially price out.
I don't think the owners. I don't think the owners would ever go for it.
I don't agree with you, Mike.
Any mid-level free agent would now be getting nothing on their second contract because teams would always pay more to the rookies.
Well, I mean, you'd have to raise the cap, but go ahead.
And once again, there's a lot of nuance to this. The reason I think, in theory, like in a vacuum, I kind of like it. And there'd have to be stipulations in, it fits into your cap. You can't spend over. Your second apron teams, you can't have as much money to spend on this kind of thing. The NBA right now and the future franchises are dictated off ping pong balls. And the lottery has its flaws. I like some of the eliminations they've done to even out some of the odds. But we have, as of today, 10, and you can make a case that 11 teams are in quote-unquote tank mode right now. It is just before the second half of the season post-All-Star break starts. And you have a third of the league, if not more, already in tank mode because, to what Jason said, it is how you have to operate. I don't blame these teams.
But also, it's this is a really good draft.
That's why more teams are doing it this year.
So it's a year-to-year thing.
But again, this is going too far. If you just let teams spend money, then the big market teams will have an advantage.
But if you eliminated the draft, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to use teams that, let's say it was able to happen right now. Just say right now,
go ahead.
No draft. You still have a salary cap you have to oblige by. So the Cavs have a second apron team, or the Lakers, who are just under the second apron by $197,000. They don't have the same amount of money to spend on a young guy.
You can't do it based on these terms, Mike, because teams will be built differently.
But we're talking about I'm saying right now, for example, why I like this.
I know, but
if you let me finish, I promise
it'll make sense.
The Lakers couldn't sign a guy, right? So instead of now basing ping pong balls on the future of your franchise, you have to start planning out and using your cap management, using your roster management, using cap space, which is now irrelevant in the NBA because no free agents hit free agency. They just re-sign and then demand to get traded. Those things come back into value as you build franchises long term, as opposed to praying the ping pong balls fall in your favor. So yes, right now I know these teams would plan out for it in the future. But if you have a team you think can win a championship and you want to dip into the second apron or whatnot because the guys you currently have are worthy of those contracts, then you're taking the money away from what you could spend on an incoming rookie. Once again, it'll never happen.
Yeah.
I just like a league in theory, and once again, there's a lot of downsides that come with this as well. I'm fully aware this is not a perfect system, of a league where future roster management, cap management, and projections play a bigger role than a ping pong ball, lottery ball machine that dictates where the best players
end up. To me, if you're trying to just give everybody the same odds. If you don't make the playoffs, everybody has the same odds at the top 3 picks.
That's true.
Like, okay, they're done. If you are really intent on abolishing
that's
tanking,
an easy solution.
Yeah.
Just give everybody
the counter
the same
to that
odds.
is then teams are tanking the play-in because they know they can't win.
That's true. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, that's true too.
And fine, like whatever. Like it's you're never going to get it out.
Right. There's no perfect system. There's no perfect league. To me, the optics are the NBA's season is just too long. Right? I have covered a lot of NFL seasons that have gone off the rails. They end quickly. And even the year the Browns went 0-16, they should have won 3 of their last 5 games. They didn't lose them intentionally. They lost them because they drafted Corey Coleman. Right? So, like, it's different. But the NBA season is so long. And then teams are incentivized by the current system to sit veteran players who are a little banged up.
Yep.
Who when their season is in the tank. Like, that's just what it is. So tanking works is the biggest roadblock. But to me, the thing that needs to change to make the NBA product better is the season needs to be shortened, and the owners aren't going to agree to that because that's less money.
Yeah,
it's just way too.
Season
they start before Halloween, and we're sitting here talking about 27 games left.
I know it is crazy.
You know, the NCAA basketball tournament starts in 4 weeks, and that's perfect because that season's too long.
Yeah.
But it starts 2 weeks after the NBA, and it's over as soon as the tournament starts.
Yep.
The NBA playoffs are 3 months.
I know.
Too
The long season's a bigger issue than tanking. I 100% agree.
All right, Mike.
Agree.
Go ahead.
Jason, real quick, any last thoughts on not in the NBA, but in the NFL, or any changes to like draft stuff? Do you think this is how it will be, or do you think in the next 5 years, NBA, NFL, whatever, we'll see any change to how these teams basically approach the draft
No.
and rookie contracts?
No,
Baseball
next 5 years?
Baseball does a lottery now for the first
10
couple of
years,
picks.
whatever you want. Next.
I mean, I do think they're going to keep making changes to the NBA draft lottery. I don't think NFL teams are going to change anything.
No.
It's just there's more bad teams in the NFL than in any other sport.
I know, but teams don't lose the same way.
They're still bad. They're still bad.
But that's not the argument. People are not complaining that there's bad teams.
But I hate, like, okay, yeah, you don't want to sit your
Yeah.
best players at the end of games, and I get that. But the reason they do it is because it's...
You're saying it works, but you brought up just a couple of... There's a million examples of teams that didn't work.
Well, of course, but
Yeah.
But if you want good players, you have to be at the top of the draft. If you want superstar-type players in the NBA, there's always a Jokic. You can always find the anomaly.
Yeah.
But for the most part, and I do think teams have done a better job. This is a entirely different conversation. I think teams, including the Cavs, have done a really good job of finding better talent on the margins. But those are for, like, role players to mid-level guys. When, like, most of the elite talent comes from the top of the draft.
That's correct.
It's not going to change in the NFL. First of all, the draft is the biggest reason why the NFL dominates the news cycle for 360 days a year.
Yep.
You know, and now as teams have changed and started with free agency being less because you either sign your guys or you trade them before, those late round picks are a big part of the NFL's trade revolution, the analytics driven stuff, right?
Right.
The draft is just such a big component of anything.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say there's no tweaks to it, but just look at the monster that the NFL draft is. It's the third day of the draft, and they have 100,000 people show up in the park.
I know. I'm surprised they haven't turned rounds 2 and 3 into 2 separate days yet.
Yeah, the third day of it is so long. It's way too long.
Yeah.
I need to do more research on this, but I think what the NBA needs to add a third round before they start worrying about tanking. I think that's a bigger, because you got guys in the second round, you got agents trying to manipulate where guys go.
Yeah.
The Cavs second round pick, he should have been taken significantly higher than what he was.
Right.
But they were able to manipulate the draft in the second round of the draft to steer him to Cleveland.
How? Why can you do that?
You tell him, don't take him.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to be
Second
there.
round contracts are not guaranteed in the NBA.
Okay.
So
why would adding a third round change that?
Because there are so many good players now, and I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm not. The elite stars still come from the top, but there is more talent now than ever in the NBA,
Right.
and
that's true.
more unsigned, undrafted free agents become contributors in the league. To where, and
You
again,
have the G League.
and
play these guys.
They've tried to make the G League sort of the minor leagues for like baseball.
Right.
It hasn't. I don't think it's not.
No,
it's not really working.
because your best players are going to go right to the NBA.
Right. But I think if
No,
you
but I'm saying you have the room to play these guys, these third round picks.
if you add a third round, I think it takes away some of the manipulation that goes on in the second round.
Because they know they're going to get drafted anyway. He's saying some guys don't want drafted, Bull.
Because
they
they
get
want
past a certain team.
It's almost abolishing the draft because
Yes.
once you get past a certain point, you want to pick your spot,
Yes.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
want to go to a team where you got a chance to play or whatever
I think
else.
the overall health of the game of basketball and the overall talent pool is up. And
Yeah.
so I think a third round for the NBA draft does make
Yeah.
sense.